Okay, everybody. Hello, how y'all doing? It's Brian for Breakstick Education. Sorry I'm late. It was a late meeting at work, and for those of you who work at organizations on a 4-day work week, they need to shove 5 days worth of work into 4 days. Actually, three and a half, because a lot of folks are just going to fuck right off on the afternoon of the third for most folks. So really trying to shove 5 days worth of work in about 3.5 days. So had a couple late meetings that needed to go to. Well, glad you're here. Glad you were able to join me on my stream today. Afraid we've been a little gone. Last week was a little off. I know that we had Jay on. I think Friday. I want to say Friday. Jay Beal talking about Kubernetes, which was a great discussion with him on why you do Kubernetes, what the format of his training, the method by which he does his CTFs, which I, I didn't, I don't think it's something I would participate in because I try not to use try not to go whole hog on my laptop or my computer and connect to networks while I'm at DEF CON, but it is definitely something if you're interested in getting those kinds of awards or kudos, then you can do that. Um, I think this year, if you, it's something you have to be interested in. It's something you have to, I think, work at regularly. And um, Kubernetes and Docker and containerization technologies is all about maximizing what you have, right? If you have 8 gigs of RAM in your computer, and uh, like Jay had mentioned, if you set up a VM, depending on how often that VM is used, or you have to dedicate resources to that, right? You have to say, I'm going to dedicate 4 cores and 16 gigs of RAM and 60 gigs of drive space. Um, and potentially a GPU and whatever to do this thing. And then you load up an OS, and then it will sit sometimes sitting at 0% consumption. And so the idea is, um, once you get really good at it, you can do things like, well, I'm not processing this anymore, so I can get rid of it, and or I can there's certain functions where you can say, okay, stand up this many cubes or this many Docker containers for this application, do your bit, and then kill it. You know, Especially in cloud environments, that's going to save you a lot of money. If you have a VM just sitting there doing nothing for, you know, 28 days out of the month, and then those, 5 to 10 minutes every hour and every day of the month, it's doing something, or that's just an example, but you could save a lot of time and effort by having a more flexible method of collecting, of work in this case. Hey, Walt, how you doing? Found the answer on XP points in boot.dev. Every 4 weeks, you move to a new guild and the points reset. This allows new people to compete with old subscribers. well, well, that's good. I yeah, I'm still sitting at about 0%. I'm going through the asteroid stuff right now, so um, I'm finding. Oh, and they just updated. So I've never heard of this before, Walt. Me in a browser. There you go. We'll maybe talk about that later. I've never heard of UV. Um, Apparently, they pushed this out, so it's an extremely fast Python package and project manager written in Rust. So um, I noticed when they upgraded us on the system, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's going to create a .toml file, TOML file," and I was like, "Oh wait, that's Rust." So they couldn't create a fast Python package and project manager in Python. They had to build it in Rust. So, um, yeah. So it makes sense to the people who are using it. right? And so um, just got back from Walla Walla. Oh yeah, cherries and Yakima are excellent. Yes, it's very good. Um, UV is supposed to be really good. Well, you're gonna be using it in your Python related items because I think boot.dev just moved to that. Um, so yeah, so the instructions weren't hard. So they have here, this is how you set up UV, initialize your project. So the upside of this is you don't have to have a separate. Yeah, I moved my asteroids to UV as well. Um, I I'm sure others like to use it. You know, you're gonna it does create the pyproject.toml file and .python version. The interesting thing I found is it says you can delete your venv, so your virtual environment that you create in Python. And so when you run, UV and then you run your examples, you don't have to have a separate virtual environment like on my let me see. Yeah, so the virtual environment was it can be deleted, right? Or gone, and it kind of sticks around after you use it. So I've been playing with it a little bit. I'm uncertain as to why you need to follow in the footsteps of Node and npm and have use npm run instead of Node or whatever. But I guess that's just the way things are. If your company is not using UV or companies aren't using UV at all, um, the fact I just find it interesting. So UV is Rust based, and this is a Python course. So it would make sense that maybe boot.dev will have a Rust section at some point, learn how to use Rust, which yeah, can be there for, I guess. Um, yeah, it's kind of like npm, but for Python, it's kind of like it kind of uses Rust, but it's for Python. So, you're one of the downsides of using a site like boot.dev, and that is a minor one, but you're beholden to using whatever technologies they think is the flavor of the day or flavor of the month. Um, I will say that the instructions they had here were excellent, and some of the other things they've added, yeah, requirements.txt, which was interesting, and it creates a lock file, which I have the lock file in there now. My I'm wondering if I've got to go back, and the package manager situation with Python has had issues for years. Well, you could just say the package manager situation with insert any programming language has been problematic for years. Um, I don't think Python has the license on, hey, you can't, your package manager sucks. I think that's between pip, uh, you know, you know, yeah. I appreciate the attempt to fix the problem. The irony is that they couldn't even fix it with Python. They had to fix it with Rust. Um, so it would be like it's a PowerShell script for Python that you use for better package management, or we're going to use batch files or whatever to set up our environment. I mean, I get it. So I suggested a feature to them in this, in that um, the asteroid game specifically uh, doesn't have a typical screen like you're coding on the left side like we've done previously, and you're doing everything. So you one of the updates they've recently had is Boots will now take a look and see what you're doing inside. So if you're in Python, this is the normal UI. You don't have to copy paste your code from here into talk to Boots for him to analyze it. He will automatically look at what you've got over here and say, yeah, you're good to go, or you're garbage. Well, TypeScript will be moving to Go for their compile. Fucking understand. Um, Great. Okay. I have no doubt Rust and Go are great for fast CLI tools, but um, Jesus, um, how many programming languages are we going to need to know? We can't just know Python now, right? We can't just know, we want to put everything in Rust. Well, Rust has their issues too, so they're going to solve it by using Python. Or um, I just find it funny in a sad way that you know, Python can't solve its own problems, so it has to implement Rust. TypeScript can't solve its problems, so it has to use Go. Um, TypeScript 6 will be 10x faster compared to running it in Node. Okay. I often I wonder, what the holy war will look like for this. Okay, so things are broke. Some things are broke in my chat. Hmm. The compile stage. Okay. All right. Um, new message. Yeah, weird. So external messages won't show up on the chat bot. All right. Well, I'll just remove that. Uh yeah, I guess that's what it is to be a programmer. You, it is what it is. So, we will be enjoying things like TypeScript 6 using Rust and Go. So it would make sense at some point that they'll have a Rust and or they have Go in here already for a dashboard. Like you're going to learn Go right here on course 13. Um, I would be surprised if we don't learn Rust at some point here because you'll have to learn it with TypeScript or you'll have to use it with whatever. So or it'll be like a dig deeper kind of thing. So they moved the web crawler that we would have learned later on down here. So anyway, oh, and Kubernetes. So they okay. So I'm gonna probably go through the Docker bit again. I did some of those because it was like I'll probably just reset this when I get started. The problem is you don't get any more experience from already taking stuff if you've already taken it. Um, but um, yeah, interesting stuff. So uh, let me see. Many languages were written. Oh, I had 100%, 100%. But I grew up, back in my day. I'm going to use the old man yelling at cloud thing. It was you learn Python and you learn Python, and that's what you code in. It's not like, well, I have to know Rust to know Python, or I have to know, Go to understand TypeScript or whatever. Um, one of the reasons we tried learning Rust back in the day was you could actually build Rust using itself or whatever. So I have no doubt they're written that way on purpose. I just wonder what the internal turmoil is looking like for the purists of Python or the TypeScript purists out there. They're like, I only want to use TypeScript. I only want to use Python to do everything in. I'm assuming you can still do all of that. You're just going to hit whatever performance bottleneck that you're going to run into. Right. You don't need to know Rust to use a tool written in Rust. Right. I just wonder who made UV the thing. Right. Who decided UV was the very popular package manager and why use it over something else? Um, we're going to use UV because you know, because that's what the zeitgeist says is the new hotness to all this. And you're you're not, between pip tools, pipx, I don't even know what the fuck poetry is, twine, whatever. Um, Great. They're gonna get rid of all of that stuff. I'm more than happy to get rid of all that stuff. Um, Installs and manages Python versions, installs and runs tools, publishes Python pack, but you have to also install Rust, right? Or, maybe it comes in a different pip compatible interface for performance boost with familiar CLI. That's always helpful. That's great. Supports cargo style workspaces for scalable projects. Okay. Installable without Rust via curl or pip. Yes, I did that. That worked fairly well. And it's cross-platform, which should be like number zero in the highlights because if it doesn't support a certain thing, then uh, yeah. So that worked out great. I didn't have any problems installing it. I didn't have any problems setting it up. So if you are a fan of simplifying things, and I'm actually wondering if I can do that at my workplace because yes, I having to use pip was kind of a nightmare, especially if you had to create a virtual environment to be able to do stuff with. But yeah, so let's see, curl LSS. How was it in Yakima there, Walt? How was your time in UV? Everything's installed. Now, see that was fairly easy. That worked out very well. Um, or you can actually, wow. So pip is going to it's going to kill itself off by installing with pip. We just lunched in Yakima, 96 degrees. Ugh. Yeah. We went to Lake Cuyamaca, which is we actually had to go up to for those of you who are in the Southern California area or San Diego area is um, this is the lake Cuyamaca, and we were up in Julian, which is known for its pies. If you've ever gone to you know Boulder Creek, so we drove up the highway here, Julian, little town, very boutiquey. So Walt, for it's like Leavenworth, if you want to call it that, but it's not German inspired. It's little town, Main Street, USA kind of thing. Not very big, but they are known for their pies. Matter of fact, the Julian Pie Company is chef's kiss. Um, Definitely get the apple with crumbly top, solid with a little nice warm apple pie with some ice cream on. Kills every time. But yeah, we drove down, and I make no bones. This does not adequately show you how curvy this shit is down here. But the Lake Cuyamaca is a nice little place to go and hike. Nice easy trails. Um, they also have a gold mine at Julian. If you wanted to go take the tour there, they were one of the places in the gold rush back in the 1850s, 1860s. So yeah, we went there this weekend. It was nice. Got to hang out and go and see things. It's going to be crazy this weekend because they were already decorating for Fourth of July. So visited with the folks in Walla Walla. Yeah, I love Walla Walla. They have the whole Yakima River Valley in that area where wine country is. The um, excellent wines up in Washington State, Eastern Washington State. Um, it's just a shame it takes 3.5 hours to drive over there from Seattle or from where I lived in Snoqualmie. Would have gone there more often. I think the last time we stayed out there, what was it? Camino Heights, I think is what it was called. Cameo Heights Mansion. Yeah, we stayed at this place when we visited there. Big ass house, um, huge area. We actually sat out there in that pool. Lovely views of the area. It is out in the middle of nowhere, but it was one of those things where you can view. They have a you know winery and all that stuff as well, but it's a short trip into the wine country and all the vineyard areas over there. So, but yeah, wasn't bad. Wasn't bad. Um, and they have different rooms with different themes, which I found interesting. But that's been, I don't know, 5 years or better. So, um, but it's pretty good. Anyway, if you don't use UV yet, go give it a shot. You can actually install it with pip. So pip will kill itself trying to install UV and uninstalling. I assume you can still use pip even if you don't want to use. No, looks like pip gone. Did it uninstall pip? Interesting. Oh, have to. You also have to source the variables. So once you've done all that, and you can self update. So that's cool. Um, Projects manages project dependencies and environments, support for lock files, workspaces, and more, similar to Rye or Poetry. Okay, so it looks like this is version 2.0 of all that because I've never used Poetry, I've never used Rye. You can add virtual environment. That's right, you create your virtual environment. All checks passed. Create a new script and add inline metadata. Okay. And then there's a UVX. Run it. Okay. So UV tool run. Okay. Yeah, I've not had to do any of this down here, but the instructions for boot.dev were quite good. Yeah, hotel. Yeah, we just did that because our daughter was actually staying the summer at my mother-in-law's house in Texas, so we could go out and do that stuff. But it's kind of a different experience for us there in Cameo Heights. So um, so it's interesting, and we'll continue talking about Eastern Washington wine country and pie shops and things, but it's interesting to see media actually come out and say things that are somewhat true and have probably forever been true, but I think the media got a kick in the pants with the you know so many jobs, skills gaps, 4 million jobs missing because they kept regurgitating the same talking points for years. And maybe it's one of those things, if you say it enough, then it will be true. But so somebody named Nate has said, we've all been wrong. Well, not everybody. Some of us have been on the fishing training doesn't work bandwagon for a few years now. Um, but uh, so a recent study suggests, I'm wondering if I can find that. Where did the person say this? So it's referencing. Oh, I think they've actually mentioned. I think I've actually mentioned this one before. So University of California, San Diego, which is right down the street from me, and UCSD Health, which is my doctor's office, basically, performed a study of unprecedented. Yeah, so they're talking about this report. So look like somebody's actually going to be speaking about this at Black Hat. Weird. They're going to be discussing their findings. So Christian Damaev, the co-director, UC San Diego Healthcare Cybersecurity. Interesting. Ariana Marion, senior security researcher at Census. Apparently, they're teaming up, and they said phishing training has been sold silver bullet for 20 years. Just show people a few fake emails, teach them what to look for. They'll magically stop clicking. Right. 8-month real world study across 20,000 employees blows the narrative wide open. We didn't run a controlled lab test. We embedded ourselves in the wild. Right. So, where's that white? I think it was a white paper. Training. Um, doesn't work. White paper. I want to say there was a white paper. I know there was a white paper. Um, but if you go to Black Hat, you'll see. They'll probably link it in the notes or whatever. But it's pretty cool that people are actually raising this as you're just going to spend several $1 million to compliance. It's a compliance measure, right? You're still going to have phishing training. You're still going to have your yearly pen test because compliance requirements are such that, oh, well, it's better than nothing, right? Uh, you're doing your due diligence by, requiring people to go do 10 minutes of phishing training every year. So, um, so they say the big finding is these standard out of the box industry trainings are not efficacious and preventing users from clicking on emails in the future. That's a big word for it doesn't work, right? One of the co-authors and senior security researcher at Census, she adds there's a lot of nuance there. That's fair. I think it's not in how you or it's not the type of training. I think it's in terms of how you, I would say, target. So I'd love to see I'd love to see what their solution is if they have one. Um, Prioritizing awareness is very much predicated on the research itself. Some of their studies in 2000s and 2010s explored this notion of teaching awareness is the path forward to protecting users. There's so much psychology and cognitive science research that also says the same. See, I would love to see that talk, and maybe what we'll do this year after Black Hat, after DEF CON, when I come back, is we'll watch some of those videos and see what it takes to actually do. Oh, is this it? I think this might be it. This might be a white paper. No, this is another paper, isn't it? 14,000 study participants received different simulated phishing emails in normal work context. Deployed a reporting button to the company's email client, which allowed the participants to report suspicious emails they received. We measured click rates, results, three types of contributions. Some of our findings support previous literature with improved ecological validity, good effectiveness of warnings on emails. I think a lot of things can be solved just by having that report phishing link, even if it's, you know, even if they're unsure, instead of them having to go, oh, okay, well, let me reply phishing at, send the email, whatever. They can just have a button inside of Outlook that says report as phishing. Boom. And then that, lights off some sort of workflow that lets somebody know, like IT or whatever, that, hey, somebody clicked on this as a phishing email. Um, that would, you know, be a better option than having to send an email with the phishing payload inside of it or something like that. Um, Go take a look at this. I think this is, yeah, you can download the PDF for that as well. There you go. This is census. This was census paper. Fishing training. Fishing training. White paper. Is this it? Yep, here it is. Found it. Okay, so yeah, this is the paper here. It's 18 pages long. I think I talked about this in a stream, and that's why I knew it had existed. So looking up census white paper fishing training. Here's the paper. Um, so they say it empirically evaluates the efficacy of two ubiquitous forms of enterprise security training, annual cybersecurity awareness, and embedded anti-phishing training exercises. 8-month randomized controlled experiment, 19,500 employees. Our results suggest that these efforts offer limited value. And again, I think it's how the training is done. If it's 10 minutes of training every year, yeah, not gonna make any difference, especially if depending on the format of the training, you can just click through, answer 3 questions, and you're done. Or you can take the test as many times as you want, score 100%. If you fail it the first time, you can retake it, retake it, retake it until you finally pass it. You've inconvenienced people, but you haven't really done anything to teach them. They'll just pick the answer they didn't pick the first time because, if it was true, it should be false. If it's false, it should be true. If you have click all that apply, you're going to click, 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 click until you get the ones that you need right. Or worse, you're going to click, 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 click. It's going to tell you which answers are which. And then when you go back through it again, you can just get 100%. So they say first, we find no significant relationship between whether users have recently completed awareness training and their likelihood of failing a phishing sim. Second, when evaluating recipients of embedded phishing training, we find that the absolute difference in failure rates between trained and untrained users is extremely low across a variety of training content. And third, we observe that most users spend minimal time interacting with embedded phishing training material in the wild. and that for specific types of training content, users who receive and complete more instances of the training can have an increased likelihood of failing. Wow. So, well, that really sucks because the more training you give them, the more likely they are to fail. Yeah, yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah. So, um, that sucks. Uh, so yeah, this. So if you want to kind of get an idea of what they're going to be talking about at Black Hat, if you're not going to be able to attend, um, read the white paper. They will probably discuss. Uh, so they do have some additional bits in here with regards to that. I'm, you know, this has got to hurt for some of the companies that pride themselves on, being, providing phishing training. Where we provide annual cybersecurity training and we have this content and we have this, catalog of stuff that people can work through. Um, there are a few companies that make it themselves, which is great. Um, but yeah, mm, yeah. So, I'm wondering if they had a. So they do have some screenshots in here. Looks like they may have tried to generate their own. It could be the type of training too. So um, they didn't. I'm guessing they're not going to say which training they use. Let's see. Traditional enterprise jobs, Microsoft Office 365. Sure, everybody does that with mail forwarding disabled. That's great. Roughly 1 day per month, they send out a simulated phishing campaign. Experiment design. Okay, so they talk about how they set up everything, including their control group. My wonder is, do they have like a, this is what would make some training better, or how do they training fatigue, right? Low user engagement training might result in accumulating fatigue. Users see more training, they become less interested in engaging in completing the sessions, right? Uh, Training engagement summary. Was there any solutions? Discussion, limitations. Let me see. Acknowledgements. So conclusion. I don't think they have a solution, so I think it's just here's the results. It would have been nice if they could have ran the study and said, okay, what made it better? Would it have been sitting in a classroom? Would it have been, um, you know, better controls in your email? Like, instead of the training, we tell IT, hey, implement this technology to make it, more likely to catch these things. Um, but yeah, so if you want to read the white paper, there's a couple of white papers there on training. I didn't read the first one I posted from the folks in Switzerland or whatever, so they may actually have come to two different conclusions depending on that. Uh, yeah, yeah. But it does make you wonder about having to pay all that money for something that is pretty much a checkbox on your compliance requirements. So yeah. Yeah, here's the other one from Zurich, right? And this one was in 2022. So it'd be interesting to see how they compare and contrast. They ran 15 months with 14,000 study participants. The other one was 8 months with 19,500 in a, could be across different industries, could be across, I know the UCSD one was mostly medical, but they did say it was people of different job types, but it is a, training hospital kind of thing. Um, so so they actually came to, it looks like, a similar output. So we find embedded training during simulated phishing exercises does not make employees more resilient to phishing, but instead it can have unexpected side effects that can make employees more susceptible to phishing. Interesting. So they came to roughly the same conclusion, but interesting. Our results show that a crowdsourced allows fast detection of new phishing campaigns. Our operational load for the organization is acceptable and employees remain active over long periods of time. So they actually may have had a solution in their white paper. But if you're interested in checking that out, please go do so. Um, yeah. Oh, and here's the dark reading article. I mean, With an LLM, you could probably just feed them the white paper and it would summarize for you anyway. But if you want to read what the person who wrote his op-ed said, you can go do that. 18, and yeah, what now for anti-phishing efforts? Okay, so this might be the only part of the article I want to read. Dangerously adjacent to the awareness first philosophy is the notion that employees are the problem. If a breach occurs, the house burns down, lawyers come knocking, and responsibility might not lie with those at the top. Um, do we ask the user to take on more of the onus? I don't think they can. This is almost like um, the there was a tweet, and I got on Twitter because I was talking to somebody who we are potentially going to have on next Sunday. And the last time I saw them, they were on Twitter. So I got a response from them, but I actually saw somebody, Tanya Yanka, who we've had on the show more than once, ask about what does shift left mean to you. My question, I think I mentioned to her at B-Side San Diego, was shift left seems to be only talked about at security conferences and not at developer conferences because developers don't see a need to shift left because they don't shift left. They need to stay where they are and security comes to them, right? Shift left is a security problem, not a developer problem. And uh, yeah, I I still believe that that developers don't have to move. It's the security has to come to them, right? And that's a problem because developers don't see a problem because they can continue moving as they go. Security is going to come over here and basically be a road bump or supposed to be guardrails, but it's a brick wall or it's going to change process and it runs into issues. But um, yeah, that's that's interesting. So her work leaves open the possibility that certain unexplored kinds of training could work, like more expensive one-on-one in-person coaching. That's interesting. I that did occur. I was at a SANS conference, one of the virtual summits that they do on social engineering. It was a social engineering conference, and some people who had briefed at that event had mentioned that uh, they did they did at their organization one-on-one training with people, especially ones who had um, failed numerous times to give more customized training. And I think it ended up being that that person never did figure it out. They still were susceptible to phishing, and they ended up, because they were like, "Oh, we written in our employee handbook that multiple failures to, you know, detect phishing or to be phished could result to up and including termination." And that was something that a speaker one or two passed the people who mentioned, well, yeah, we can, take the option to terminate people who don't pass phishing training or are constantly failing phishing training. There was like two speakers later that they were like, yeah, we find that that's probably not a good motivator to get people to not click on phishing, and um, which I found interesting that they had a speaker who said something, and then another speaker basically said, yeah, that's a stupid way of doing things. Um, and so, yeah, I think you could probably do one-on-one in-person coaching, but it would be very much tailored, I think, to more senior people, maybe. Um, and companies might also consider how to incentivize employees to make cybersecurity a part of their jobs. Incentivize meaning pay them, or you know, I don't think attaboy emails are going to be what's going to, you you found the fish, great. Um, I've I've been involved in these phishing campaigns or phishing exercises or whatever, and any goodwill that you might have in the security department with anybody at your organization goes out the window the minute you've deceived them by doing these things. For example, by giving some financial stake in the company's future. Okay, so you pass a phishing test, you get some RSUs. Yeah, I can see that. Um, you pass the phishing test. Here's bonus. Yeah, motivators like that are very powerful, but you can't do them all the time. So Would be interesting to see what happens. Or simply, organizations can invest in technical solutions to protect against the inevitable. Exactly. Um, yeah, yeah. Verifying links before you click on them. Have some kind of system by which you can verify the links that those people are going to. Have something that strips out the URLs and replaces them with, the link that's going to be there. It's hardware two factor. Okay, I mean, if you've got the budget to do that. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Uh, just saying, we're just saying the current methods aren't working right. And um, I would argue there's probably some security folks that don't ever want to give this training because it's not something they enjoy doing. So there may be better ways of doing it. If it's a compliance requirement, you can maybe work with your GRC teams to figure out a better way of doing things, whether it be targeted, like, that person got fished last year, so maybe we need to hit up the sales department and say, okay, what does this look like? What does your workflow look like? And how could you determine that something was legitimate? Because as we've talked in the past, if HR's job is to take in resumes that are PDFs, assuming that they're actually hiring and not having an AI do it, you can't expect them to not click on things that are part of their job that could also be phishing, right? If part of the fish is I'm going to send you an attachment and it's a PDF and it's like, hey, take a look at my resume. I'm trying to apply for this job, and HR clicks on the PDF and you scold them for it. They're doing their job. And so fishing training or whatever should be trying to figure out ways to get them to think twice about doing things that would be against their nature. So if you click on a link and it doesn't open up a PDF reader, or you click on a link and a pop up shows up and you know that that's not supposed to be what happens, that could be what you would want to talk to them about. What is the expected action when I double click on a PDF? Well, if it doesn't do that, then you need to let them know. Or um, you know, it could be, we're not going to accept, their attachment blocking, doing something like not mind checks, but doing something that will, check those PDFs before they get sent in for malicious content before they get sent on to those people. You know, isolating them from the network so that if HR is phished or somebody in HR clicks on a link that allows them to be infected, it doesn't infect the rest of the company. Of course, I know that training is a requirement, just like I said, a checkbox, but um, you know, having other controls in place so that one fish doesn't ransomware the entire company is going to probably be worth more than the training itself, I think. Anyway, ah, such as it is. I am. Oh, so I clicked. I found a couple of other things. Uh, Black Hat is like a month away, right? What is today? No, it's almost a month away. Starts on like the second, third, something like that. So, um, if you want to listen to this, it is in the human factors track at Black Hat. So, um, don't know if they've been accepted to DEF CON, but there you go. Do they have all sessions? What's going on? Oh yeah, so that looks like they've already announced. Oh, on the 29th, so they announced some of the speakers where they're going to be. Oh, Carlo, okay. Worm in the Apple, Wormable, Zero Click RCE. Okay, great. Advanced Active Directory intra lateral movement techniques. We have adversarial fuzzer. Okay. Yes, you're going to see a lot of this stuff. So you're going to get all of your AI. There won't, if it, you could probably have like every talk here is going to have something having to do with AI. So there's something to enjoy. Uh, Apple Storm, unmasking the privacy risks of Apple Intelligence. That's a different kind of AI. Autonomous timeline analysis and AI agent. Okay, AI, another AI agent. Um, yeah. Oh, so they've just thrown threat hunting, incident response, AI, ML, and data science. Well, they just shoved all that shit in there, right? Boom. It's cloud security, exploit development, and vulnerability discovery. Okay, that's one of the tracks. I've never been to Black Hat other than being in LobbyCon, so you know I don't have the money to be able to do that. Um, wait. So are they? So wait, here's threat hunting and incident response as well. Are they going to be giving these at different tracks, or I don't understand that. So yeah, see, so we're gonna have exploit development and vulnerability discovery, AI, ML, and data science. I'm not sure how that works. Consult your physician or whatever the thing is going to look like there for that. Um, wow. So there's a good number of things here. It looks like there's going to be something for everybody. A lot of AI stuff. Everybody's going to have their own AI thing to deal with or handle. If you are wanting those, take a look. Oh, pop this over here. Oh, there we go. Paste. If you want to check out the briefing schedule there for Black Hat, it goes. So you're going to get all, if you want to AI all the things, you're going to find those. Yeah, we're going to oh, so agentic AI is already dead, so we're going to reinvent it. So there you go. You can grab that as well. Windows, hell no for. That's a great title. Jesus. What? Okay, so are we gonna, wait. Let me see what the, is it gonna be adopt Linux? What is it? Oh, Windows Hello. Okay, so, oh, it's about the passwordless strategy. Okay. Comprehensive overview of Windows Hello for business, internal mechanisms, big and little secrets lifted by reverse engineering. Okay, so you're if you're wanting to not implement Windows for Hello for business in your organization, this might be a reason why you wouldn't want to do so. Or discuss remediations using it in a more secure context. So just a heads up if you're wanting to do that. I hadn't meant to talk so much about this, but it just showed up. So there's that if you want to go read that. Sentinel One posted on their blog about the good, the bad, and the ugly this week. So, Department of Justice in the United States has charged a British national for high impact data breaches. Um, k8s, 25, operating under Intel broker and orchestrating cyber attacks, 25 million in damages. Excuse me, across government agencies, corporations, and critical infrastructure. Okay. Is he's a British national, but where's he from originally? I wonder. Is he from North Korea? No. West has been charged with conspiracy to commit computer intrusions, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and unauthorized access to protected systems. I love this. So, conspiracy to commit wire fraud. That means he, set up wire fraud, and then he actually committed wire fraud, and then got unauthorized access to protected systems. So he's going to get 25 potential years in prison. He was arrested in France. Ah, okay. So now he is in France seeking. They're trying to extradite him from France. Um, that is what's going to happen. Hopefully, if he does end up back over here. Uh, the bad APT28 abuses Signal in new malware campaign. Sure, that makes sense. Russian-based state-sponsored group APT28, also known as UAC001, also known as what? Scary Spider, or see what other things it's known as. Let's see. APT28. Is it known by anybody else or anything else? Uh, okay. Wow. Usually, aren't these things known by like 15 different things? That's why Microsoft and CrowdStrike were trying to make it. Oh, there we go. Fighting Ursa, Fancy Bear, Forest Blizzard, Strontium, Pawn Storm, UAC 00001, and APT 28. So it's, yeah, it's also known as. It's got more name changes than Diddy. So, um, and it uses 2022 190 to distribute Cobalt Strike beacons. Good job, Cobalt Strike. Yeah. Good job, y'all. Um, wow. Yes. So here's a write up from sockprime.com on UAC 0001, Russian backed threat actor. What was the ugly? That no, that's another thing I was gonna rant about a little bit here. Latest attacks, macro enabled word docs and signal, which deploy a multi staged infection chain. Um, this is bad because I think signal, you can use on the desktop as well, which kind of sucks that you can do that. Beard Shell achieves persistence through COM hijacking in the Windows registry, highlighting campaign's evasion strategy. And earlier variants of the attack from last year, APT 28, also deploys Slim Agent, a malware tool designed to grab encrypted screenshots via Windows API calls such as BitBit, create compatible DC, create compatible bitmap, enum display monitors, and GDIP save image stream. Oh, why do we have to have so many ways of collecting screenshots? Uh, the ugly Salt Typhoon. Okay. Salt Typhoon, which hit U.S. telcos like T-Mobile and all those other ones, expanding its targeting to include U.S. Canadian telecom providers. Okay, well, that makes sense. It would if you have, um, you know, you're a telecom, so you're going to use a lot of maybe the same technology. You're going to use a lot of the same methods. You're going to have a lot of the same problems across the industry. So it would make sense. In this case, unpatched Cisco network devices. So, yeah, cyber reconnaissance across dozens of Canadian organizations. Although no confirmed intrusions were reported, authorities warned that failure to act would leave critical infrastructure exposed. So it's too late. So that warning has now materialized. Oh, okay. So basically, who warned? Who warned? Let me see. Oh, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. So indicators of cyber reconnaissance were observed across dozens of Canadian organizations. So they kind of saw it coming in 2024, and you know, maybe it's because they didn't get the premium threat intelligence feeds or something, and now they got burned, right? Uh, they're also hitting other places. Let's see, supply chain attacks, routers, firewalls, VPN. Cyber Center warns Salt Typhoon against large organizations is likely continued through 2026. Well, if it works, continue doing it, I guess. Telco providers in particular remain high value due to their access to metadata, subscriber info, and sensitive comms. Yeah. I mean, the fact that indicators of compromise of cyber reconnaissance were observed across the Canadian organizations as of October 2024 and nothing happened or nothing was changed, that's painful. At least one telecom provider in Canada remained vulnerable, enabling attackers to compromise three network devices. I wonder if it's like Rogers or something like that. I wonder. Let's see. Salt, Typhoon, Canadian ISP, telecoms. Which telecoms? Slovak, he said. An unnamed Canadian telecom company was breached in February. Okay, Viasat. Okay, so Viasat, which is the satellite intel company from, um, yeah. So that's rough. That's rough. Let's see. Somebody's leaked it, right? Come on now. There we go. One of its okay, so they're trying to keep it quiet because they want them to fix the issue before that. Uh, Three network devices registered to an unnamed Canadian telecom company in mid-February, according to the notice. Well, maybe we'll see this in the Verizon data breach report when it comes out. Um, Canadian authorities also warned they expect more Salt Typhoon attacks, right, beyond merely the telecom sector. We assess the PRC, People's Republic of China cyber actors will almost certainly continue unnerving cyber espionage campaigns. Yeah, Cisco devices are very good, and if you don't, yeah, so um, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile were all hit, right? Viasat, Lumen was hit as well, and are among the nine known stateside victims so far. And telcos in Italy, South Africa, and Thailand. So yeah, any company, any country with a telco in it, Australia, has several telco providers. Um, the UK, Britain, that kind of area, they have any kind of telecom providers. They're all going to be vulnerable because they all kind of use the same stack, right? Or they all have the same stuff, right? And that makes them very valuable. And it's obvious that the telecom sector cannot patch itself effectively. I'll just put it out there. They're just not good at patching. Can't do shit, right? You can't keep up with it, especially if they all use the same Cisco kit. Got to kind of bite you in the ass, don't it? Um, Damn. Many companies are now facing regulatory compliance costs, need for rapid implementation of enhanced security measures, meaning they're going to buy more kit, which is going to not get patched, and then Salt Typhoon will pivot, right? Uh, yeah, that's funny. Anyway, hmm. And like they say here, the recent decision by DHS to terminate all advisory committees raises new concerns about the continuity of government industry collaboration in cybersecurity. Um, yeah, advisory committees long played a vital role in shaping security policies, facilitating information exchange, and ensuring private sector concerns are integrated into federal decision making. Not having those people who actually know what's going on outside of government work, it's gonna bite them. It's gonna hurt them. Yeah, industries may face additional challenges in obtaining clear guidance and streamlined coordination from federal agencies, potentially slowing response efforts in the wake of future cyber incidents. Yeah, so we'll have to get better at sharing that information, maybe InfraGard or something like that, or some kind of better way of collecting that information and sharing it out in a way that can be fast and actionable in this case. Or more private sector companies with threat intelligence feeds will have to step up and be, a bit noisier about their, what they found or how they found it. Uh, yeah. Salt Typhoon. Oh, Gabrielle Hempel. Okay, I know her. Good person. Good person. Uh, Seen her post a lot on Twitter back in the day. Salt Typhoon served as a wake up call for industries and federal agencies alike, underscoring the need for unity, innovation, and resilience in the face of increasing cybersecurity land. I wouldn't call it sophisticated, it just needs to work, right? Um, yeah, I wouldn't call it sophisticated at all. It's just a lack of patching, vulnerability management purposes, the need for business to stay running at a high availability without running into downtime, right? Which is more painful, being owned up by APT 28 or UAC 0001, Salt Typhoon, or being down and not operational because of a bad patch or I don't know. At this point, it's like, you know, which one is, you want to be in the news like AT&T, Verizon, and, T-Mobile because, they know they've been owned up or patch your shit, right? Update your stuff, get rid of outdated systems, have a And I know I'm throwing stuff out there as a Monday morning quarterback on a Tuesday afternoon, but they got to do something. They can't just, ideally, they can't continue doing what they're doing right now. Um, in that case, so they're gonna, I don't know if, buzzwords like zero trust frameworks and AI driven monitoring is going to help, but it's just more security debt that we're going to take on when you start, implementing zero trust frameworks and AI driven monitoring. That's more debt and more work that security people are going to have to do. So it'll be interesting to see what comes from that. Um, so the hype machine, which, you know, the Cyber Express by Cybel, Kybel. I don't know who Kybel is, whatever. They've decided that Killen is the top ransomware group. Huzzah! Not sure how Paul decided that they were. Maybe he picked one at random. Kind of like a desert island discs of ransomware groups, and this is the top one that he would have picked. Uh, with 86 claimed victims in the month of June. Okay, so maybe it's just based on the number of people that they owned up in the month. That's it. Then that's Cullen was more than 50 claimed attacks ahead of rivals. So yeah, that's it. They're the top team because they owned up the most people, right? Um, oh, and so this is like, I don't want to say advertising, but this is a uh, what is this? Killen led all ransomware groups in April after Ransom Hub went offline, possibly in an act of sabotage by rival Dragon Force. Okay. If you remember, I think we talked about Dragon Force being one of those ransomware as a service providers. So it would make sense for them to want to nuke any competition that they had because they're the only game in town. People are going to flock to them, right? Safe Pay edged out Quillen in May before Quillen returned to the top spot in June. Okay, so it seems to be fairly, you know, um, maybe Safe Pay just had a bad month and people, to stay on top, you have to continue to pivot. You have to continue to not be detected. You have to constantly be upgrading your kit to be able to own people in a different way. Among the group's victims were high value telecom, blockchain, healthcare, and transportation organizations. Well, if APT 28 or UAC 0001 or Salt Typhoon or whoever is is owning up the telecoms, it seems like Quillen or Killen is coming right behind them and ransomwaring the shit out of them. So um, it's not a good time to be a telecom, I don't think, in this case. I can only imagine, if you're working in a telecom industry, that if you're working incident response in the telecom industry, you're going to be a hardened person and have a lot of experience. I have a feeling, not only with having to deal with staving off ransomware or threat actors, but dealing with business people who maybe still have some cognitive dissonance, like, oh, it's not going to happen to us, right? You know, oh, so glad that AT&T and T and Verizon got hit, or AT&T and T-Mobile got hit, but we won't get hit, right? They're not going to touch us. We're good, right? Yeah. Having to deal with business decisions that are like, oh, I don't know. You handle it, or the blame game or the politics game. Why wasn't this fixed? Why didn't we do something about this? Well, you didn't give us any budget. You just laid off a bunch of our folks. um, you're making us all move to podunk nowhere, where the nearest data center is, because you want RTO. um, could Number of things. Anyway, so Cyber Express is saying that Quillen is the top. So you know they can post that up on their company refrigerator, showing that they're the top ransomware group. Maybe like ransomware people of the month award or something like that. You get that. You imagine that, like the McDonald's employee of the month, you have like other placards where it was like, oh, it's safe pay, and then, oh, killing this month, and then, oh, next month will be safe pay again, and then it's like Akira, yay, Akira's for July or something like that. So there you go. You can see 377 victims in late June, within range of May's final count of 401 victims. Hmm. Pro-Russian hacktivist group CyberVolk launched its own ransomware. Okay, latest hacktivist group to move into ransomware. Oh, I didn't know hacktivists are moving into ransomware. But that would kind of make sense if you want to make a statement as a hacktivist. You would want to do something to stop companies that may be helping people that you're diametrically opposed to or ethically opposed to stop them from, doing work or supporting those folks. And it could be anything, right? So hacktivism is no longer confined to fringe ideological outbursts. It is now a decentralized cyber insurgency apparatus capable of shaping geopolitical narratives, destabilizing critical systems, and directly engaging in global conflicts through the digital domain. Okay, that's very interesting. Uh, According to a new Cybele site, I assume it's Cybele, but got that going for you. Paste. Interesting. Okay. Um, right on. So, yeah. um, and of course, then you have like they have to keep track of, well, Raylord is now Nova, so you've got, just like the multiple, um, UAC 001s is also known as. Now you have Raylord rebranded as Nova. So we don't want to be Raylord this month. We're going to be Nova now, or we're going to be, Spike, or we're going to be, Silly Panda, or whatever it is. Um, and they're aggressively recruiting, which I wonder what a job posting for a ransomware company looks like. Can you imagine them actually hiring and they have better like benefits? Recruiting affiliates, and the Chaos Group announced its own RAS operation and aggressive recruitment efforts. The new ransomware group, known as Kawa 4096, also emerged, claiming 5 victims with similarities to the Akira ransomware group. Yeah, I mean, what stops somebody from the Akira ransomware group moonlighting as Kawa 4096? Um, and the Scattered Spider Group expanded from retail to insurance and airline sectors. Um, yeah. Anyway, um, I'm hungry and I'm gonna go eat. And I hadn't streamed in a couple days, and I wanted to make sure that everybody had a little play by play of the news and see what's going on. We talked a little bit about everything. You know, I was talking about J and Kubernetes. OWASP actually has a cheat sheet series on Kubernetes computer. So if you're wanting to set up Kubernetes in your lab at home, or if you weren't aware of this, there is a different control plane components in here. It's a discussion on, how to secure your Kubernetes hosts. I don't know how effective it is with the newer versions of these, but yeah, see, upgrading containers is easy with rolling updates, allows updating a running application by upgrading images to the latest version. And there's different methods and ways of how to do that in here. They have a ton of stuff like with logging as well. So if NPM security, Node.js, Docker, network segmentation. So, some cheat sheets in case you want to go and compare notes about what you're doing in your environment versus not. Restricting access to etcd in your, Kubernetes looks like very important, kind of a big deal. It's a critical component, storing information on states and secrets, and should be protected differently from the rest of your cluster. So, seems like that this is it's not, I wouldn't say definitive maybe, but it'll get you started. So there may be other things you would want to go and do out there and make sure that you're securing. Um, they do mention specific version numbers. So I think we were mentioning 1.3.3 or 1.33 is the latest version of Docker's or Kubernetes. So they hopefully you're updating your Kubernetes as well. You should be running as close to, you know, secure like newer version, especially if some of the newer versions kick out security updates. Um, but yeah, you should be keeping track of your port ranges and control plane and all of that, controlling access through authn or auth API authorizations and external authentication being recommended. Not recommended is actually using the built-in API authentication, which they have it, but it's not recommended. So you can read through that and understand that. But yeah, I'm gonna take off and go and get something to eat because I'm a bit hangry right now. And I will probably be on Thursday because Friday we've got to go do some stuff for family. And if all goes well, we should have a Sunday show with Mick Douglas on AI. He's got a, system called Concierge, which I know he's been working on with a developer that he has, and we'll talk about setting up maybe a local RAG. We'll talk about, you know, he also has given feedback on the SANS AI security controls. So there's a white paper out there for SANS security controls that he's had guidance and consulted on. So if you are interested in checking that out, you can find it online. Anyway, I want to take off. Have a great week. Take care of yourselves. Um, Take care of yourself as well, because as I'm fond of saying, you're the only you have. I have to remind myself to take care of myself as well, because uh, you know anxiety is an ugly motherfucker, and it will sneak up on you if you let it. So just be cognizant of that. Try to step away from the computer if you find yourself feeling a little anxious, or try to find ways to step away from whatever it is causing you that. Okay. All right. Have a great day. Bye, y'all.